This is discussion 1, Action Research 660. So the first prompt, explain origins, purpose, and goals, rationales of action research in education. So action research origins was around 1880 to 1847. Kurt Lewin, he coined the term around 1934. Action research, and that was after a series of practical experiences in 1940s. He came to view action resource as a process that give credence to development of powers of reflective thought, discussion, decisions, and actions by ordinary people participating in collective researches on private troubles that they have in common. And that's Mills from quoted from the text. So as far as the purpose of action research, the purpose of action research is to enhance students' lives, really. It's to improve the lives of children and learn about the craft of teaching. It's a critical examination of the classroom and teaching practices and the effects that the teachers have on the children in their care. And so it's a 4-step process to identify the area of focus. So you'll identify, kind of like find out the problem. You'll collect the data and you'll analyze and interpret the data, and then you'll develop a plan. And so in the video that we watched as part of the requirement for the discussion, it was said it was thought of as a spiral project where it was identify, plan, interpret, action, and reflect. And this process would keep going as the information that was found out in your plan, once you reflected on the information, that brought about new I don't want to say problems, but things that could be further investigated, researched to go further in the process and to keep it going in a spiral. So as far as the goals and the rationale for action research, so the goals are gaining insight in developing reflective practice, effecting positive change. Because one thing about action research is it can be done by teachers in the classroom, and it's more than just kind of finding out the problem. You're taking your research, everything you found out, everything you did, and you are promoting change. You are finding strategies and solutions to the problem, and you want to change that problem. So, like I said, positive change in school environments and educational practices, teaching practices, avocation that you're going to do in your work, in your education. And it's improving the student outcomes and the lives of those involved. So the goals are really surrounded around how we teach, how we can make it better, problems that we identify that we want to enact change for. So going into the second prompt, comparing and contrasting action research versus traditional research. So pretty much the goal of traditional research is to explain, predict, or control an education phenomenon. And that is quoted directly from the book Mills, 2014. To do this, research, control, manipulate their variables. So variables are different things that happen that affect the outcome. Like if something happens, it could make it so one outcome could be different from the other. And then with the traditional research, it's also to test the hypothesis, which a hypothesis is an educated guess. And then also, to go along with that, the independent variable is the behavior or characteristics under the control of the research and believed to influence some of the other behaviors or characteristics. So based on the variable, with traditional research, based on the variable, it determines the outcome. So that's with traditional research. And a dependent variable is the change or the difference in behavior or characteristics. So based on whatever the behavior or the characteristics that occurs as a result of the independent variable. Okay, so that is the traditional research. As far as action research, it was explained earlier, as far as being something that teachers could do in the classroom to invoke change and how they in a problem that they see. And so action research is teachers studying their own practices, different from traditional researchers. So traditional researchers might be a research scientist, right? Or a instructor at a university that is a professional not working in the field, whereas action research is going to be that teacher in the field, that principal, somebody in that educational setting that is working on a problem that they deal with in day-to-day life. So it's a connection. Action research is a connection with what's actually being done from day to day, in real time, versus something that is independent of what's really going on, and someone's looking from the outside looking in to see if they can come up with solutions to problems. With that, another difference is that educational research has historically been done by university professors. Like I said before, scholars and graduate students on children, teachers and principals. Action research are often school teachers and principals who are formerly the subjects of the educational researches. As such, they participate in their own inquiries, action as both teacher and researcher at the same time. So that just goes along with what I was saying before, as far as the differences between action research and traditional research. Going into explaining the mixed methods of research designs. And the key characteristics of these designs. So qualitative and quantitative research designs need not to be considered mutually or exclusive in a study might have. So they incorporate both qualitative and quantitative techniques. The collection of quantitative and qualitative data in a single study are called mixed method research designs. So when they're separate, they're one thing, and then when they're together, the qualitative and the quantitative research, that's when it's the mixed method design. The mixed method research design combine quantitative and qualitative approaches by including both quantitative and qualitative data in a single study. The purpose of mixed methods research is to build on strategies and strengths that exist between quantitative and qualitative research methods to understand a phenomenon more fully than it is possibly used either method alone. So it's to understand the process, a process that cannot be understood by just one of the methods, to use them both. And to go into the characteristics of it, there's three types of this mixed method research. One is explanatory, and that's where it's weighted more heavily on the quantitative research. And then they have the exploratory, where that is more of the qualitative it's weighted more heavy on the qualitative. And then there's the congruent parallel, and that's a more of a balanced design approach where they're using both the qualitative and the quantitative in a more balanced, more equal way. So the steps in the mixed method research process is to identify the purpose of the research, then to state the research questions that require the both quantitative and the qualitative data collection strategies. Then it's to determine the priority to be given to the type of data collected, determine the sequence of the data collected, the data collection, conduct data analysis that combines both kinds of data. Then you will write a report that is balanced in terms of qualitative and quantitative approaches. Methods like this could be used to analyze how students perform on quantitative and qualitative measures, then use the data to come up with solutions and strategies. So a method like that, you would come up with strategies based on different measures that were used in the identity of the problem in the data. So to go on to the next prompt, to justify why action research is valuable to early childhood education professionals and provide one specific example of how it can make a positive difference in the classroom, center, school, or any other educational organization. So I say action research is valuable to early childhood education because it allows for educators to come up with solutions and strategies to issues that pertain to their classroom. So as far as a teacher in the classroom or a principal at a school, or even a director of a program, so a leadership role. In terms of my own work as a specialist in the field, as an early childhood educator, action research would benefit someone like me, where I would be able to come up with some of the issues that are going on in the program, some of the things that, although I'm a specialist, there's always more strategies to give to the teachers as far as their classroom, their teaching practices, and their learning outcomes for the children. There's always more ways to assist them and help them in their growth and development. So for me, coming up with a problem that pertains to my work here, and being able to look at it, analyze the data of that problem, and then come up with solutions, and then implement those solutions in order to foster development of young children and help the teachers in their teaching practices. I believe that action research would assist me in that. So they are able to use research, including data from their setting, to enact change. So another thing with action research, you can take everything that you learn, the data that you got, and analyze it and find out how you can change things. How can you make things better? And so that is one thing, another thing of why it is valuable to early childhood educators. And for example, I'm giving an example to a teacher. She's experiencing, or he is experiencing, challenging behaviors in the classroom. The educator could study their own practices, their own teaching practices, including the classroom organization, how they're organizing the classroom, like their productivity, all of that stuff. They can consider their emotional support, the emotional support that they're giving to the children, how they're greeting them, if they're greeting them with smiles, if they're having enthusiasm working with them and match affect, and they can analyze like their instructional support, how they're delivering these lessons, this content, how they're delivering activities, how they are really getting children to, how they're really prompting those children's thought process and really getting them to understand the concepts in their classroom and developing their language. So they can take all of that along with their schedules and routines of the children to figure out times of the days and triggers for the challenging behaviors. So they can take what they're practicing in the classroom, look at the schedules, look at the routines, and really look for triggers, times of day, transitions, what is going on to make for with these challenging behaviors. They can also look at data in terms of the home setting, any trauma that's happened. They can look at all of this and see why there's not just one or two, there's many challenging behaviors in the classroom. She could then use what she finds to come up with strategies to reduce the challenging behavior in the classroom. So based on what she finds, if she finds that she's not delivering the emotional support she needs, right? If she's not, or she finds out these triggers are happening at different transitions, like drop off, where the children are getting dropped off and they see challenging behaviors around that time, or when they have to come in from outside, they can make changes to their schedule if they need to make any changes to their schedule, just to adhere to the children's needs, foster their development, to decrease the challenging behaviors in the classroom. With that, that is my discussion for Action Research 660. Thank you.